Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Trials, the podcast. I'm Preya.
I'm Melanie.
New Trials of Captor Sakura, Syaoran, and Friends is a popular ongoing fanfic by Wishluv, and it's based off of Captor Sakura. In each episode, we'll do a deep dive of the new chapter. Let's get into it.
Okay, so to start things off, I have a follow-up from our previous chapter that we discussed. So if you remember correctly, Preya posed an absolutely amazing question last episode. She asked the question of, basically, when does Toya become aware that Sakura is a card mistress, or is the card mistress, enough to where he becomes a part of the Alliance in Arc 4 and basically knows everything and is, very much a big part of the Alliance. And I was not for sure. My best guess was that it was sometime around the plague, but I wasn't for sure. So I reached out to our amazing Facebook group. And again, if you're not a part of the Facebook group, please go and be a part of that group. And I should say it's not a podcast specific group. It's a Facebook group for New Trials of Captor Sakura. And that's where we do most of our discussion and everything nowadays. So basically on Facebook, I did the question of basically, when does Toya become aware that Sakura is our card mistress? And we got absolutely amazing feedback with this question. We absolutely love when you guys answer questions. So thank you. And so just to kind of shout out a couple. So Catherine Thomas, she mentioned the original CCS, and we were like, yes, we understand that he knows things because, Toya transfers his powers to Yukito. But we said, in Arc 1, Sakura is still very much trying to keep everything a secret from him still. And then Natasha Gibson, she basically pointed out that she thought it was also maybe around the plague incident when Sakura was in the hospital after the plague. And also she does these amazing bindings of this fan fiction, which I am so insanely jealous of. And I'm about to send her all my money if she ever sells them. And then I apologize if I'm going to say your name incorrectly, but Miguel Sagai, I'm really sorry if I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. But she basically said that her guess was either in Arc 3 or Arc 4. She also thought maybe after the plague incident. And then last but not least, Shell Litfield also commented. And then she also thought it was around the plague as well. But Preya, we had a separate conversation that, we completely forgot that Toya is basically gone for a long period of time, right?
That's right, because as I mentioned before, we do focus on Sakura and Syaoran and her friends, but we completely forgot that he and Yukito, they go to London to study, and Kiro joins them. So even Kiro's not there for that Arc 2 section, and it's not until the beginning of Arc 3 when Tuya and Yukito come back. So that's why he's not really a part of their lives until the hospital volunteering section of the New Trials story.
Yeah, so I think, because that completely slipped my mind as well, that, oh, hey, he's gone for almost an entire arc, basically. And I cannot wait to get to that arc because one of my favorite tropes of all time is living together. But yeah, so I think the general consensus is it's somewhere around Arc 3, either hospital/plague. I guess we will do another follow-up once we get there.
We definitely will.
But thank you, everyone, for answering. We really, really, really appreciate you guys.
Thanks, everyone. You make the podcast fun.
Heck yes.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about Chapter 4, The Camping Trip, Part A, Around the Campfire. It was posted in December 1999, and in the timeline, New Trials timeline, it's still September during 8th grade. The word count is 7,178 words, and now I will get into the chapter summary. The Seichu Junior High students are all set for their autumn field trip, where they will be camping to the Kumatori Mountains. Everyone is excited, with the exception of Sakura and Meilin, who are uneasy about ghosts. Hiking groups throw Sakura, Tomoyo, Syaoran, and Meilin with Aaron and Erika. On their first night, the classmates strike up a game of truth or dare. Malin takes the opportunity to send a cryptic message to Syaoran, telling him that by hiding himself from the truth, he is acting like a fool and that she has a name. When Sakura was there to reveal her biggest secret, Syaoran discreetly helped her come up with her crush on Yukito as a topic. Aaron dared Syaoran to pick the flower from the tallest tree and give it to the one he used to love. Once he retrieved it, he was scolded to come down. He throws the flower in the fire. The next morning, Sakura runs into Syaoran during his drills and he offers to teach her martial arts. After the lesson, Syaoran saves Sakura from a branch that almost crushed her by taking her in his arms and pushing her aside. Overcome by the feeling of being close to her once more, he only entangled himself when a furious Malin showed up. After breakfast, the hiking group followed the trail, but an unexpected rainstorm had them running for shelter and becoming lost. When Syaoran helped Erika after injuring her knee, she uncovered a new feeling that she had for him. And that's basically sums up our part 1 of chapter 4. So before we start, have you ever been on an overnight field trip with school?
I was thinking about this, and no, my school never did anything like this. The only thing I can sort of think of that's kind of similar is when I was in high school, there was this thing where the whole student body kind of voted on kids they thought were good leaders, or I say kids, but we were teenagers, people they thought were good leaders, good listeners, good communicators. And then they would send all of us to this kind of like team building leadership type thing that was just over a weekend. And I was really lucky and I got voted to go one year. And all I really remember about it is that it was so cold because it was I think it was almost around Halloween, I want to say. So it was October, November. It was cold. It was rainy. I hate outdoors anyways. And I was just so miserable the whole time.
Oh no. Oh no, that's terrible.
But I think I was a sophomore, I want to say, so I don't really remember a whole lot about it. But that's the only thing I can sort of think of that was, I think, similar enough. But we stayed in cabins. We didn't stay in tents. And then we had to hike up this tiny little mountain I forget. See, I can't even remember what we did up there, but that's the only thing I can think of. But it wasn't the whole student body. It was only a select few of us got to go. How about you? Did your school ever do anything like this?
Well, I know that every year the grads had a ski trip. I didn't go to that. But when I started college, there was the Stratford trip. Now, Stratford, Ontario, that's the Canadian version of the theater town. So a lot of Shakespeare and maybe a handful of musicals. So I was 17 years old when I was able to go for the first time with some friends. It was the first time that I was away from home. I ate so much fast food because it's oh my God, I have freedom. I got pretty sick of the fast food pretty quickly. And by the time the end of the trip, I was kind of craving my mom's home cooking.
Ah.
We didn't have camping trips per se, but we did go to a place called Upper Canada Village in Ontario. Basically, it's like a park per se, and it's kind of designed to be old-timey, how people lived back then. Everybody was in costumes. They say good day to each other, and there's people actually farming, and you go into the little huts and you see how the blacksmiths were and the butchers and et cetera, et cetera. So that was a common field trip, but we never had anything camping related.
Yeah, I think the last time I went legit camping, in a tent on the ground, was for my best friend Riley's 21st birthday party. And best friend, she's the only person I would ever do this for. And yeah, and we're 34 now, so I'll let you do that math.
Yeah, it's not my scene. If anything, I would go glamping.
Yeah, my other best friend, her parents have this amazing cabin that's in Arkansas. But I refused to go to the cabin until they got running water and plumbing because I did not want to use an outhouse. That's how princessy I am when it comes to this type of stuff.
Girl, I'm with you. I'm with you. We can start talking about the chapter. Now, this chapter opens with Wish Chan's poetry.
And I have a theory about this that I want to run by you, but go ahead and say what you were going to say first.
Really, I'm so intrigued. All I was gonna say, it's like, yay, she gets to flex those muscles, and we don't really get much poetry. Like on the top of my head, Little Girl's Dream. So riddle. When the riddle comes in, we get more poetry, and then when Miho like she fights back, she does some more poetry. But I'm just relishing in it. So what's your little theory?
So I could be wrong, but I think um, some of these poems also pop up again when it's the best couple contest and it's the rainbow sequence, like when the rainbow chapters are split in two. I think there's another poem there. And then I know she also likes quotes that she puts throughout too. But then I also think there's one other chapter, and I was trying to think of it earlier today, that also has these poems. But anyway, my theory is that it's the riddle that is saying these poems.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Because if you notice, the poems, and I could be 100% reading into this, but that's why we do this podcast for fun. But if you notice, the poems basically end once the riddle is captured. Because I don't think we've had another poem since then. I don't think. I could be wrong in that statement, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain, and I'm not as familiar with newer chapters because I only read them once, as opposed to 72 and before that, I've read them a couple times. But I think you're right because we're really deep in the action and no more poems. Oh, if it was riddle, I'd love that. I love that. Okay, officially headcanon.
Yay, more headcanons. You're in with me. I love it.
At the beginning of this chapter, I thought it was interesting that Yue's not part of the action yet.
Yeah, I could kind of see her thought process of, let him be him, let him have this moment. Like I could kind of see that, but then also as a reader, you're like, where's Yue?
Seriously, want the team back together. But I think it really echoes season one of CCS when Sakura only has Kiro-chan by her side.
Yes, I think that's a good parallel. And again, like what we've talked about, it's kind of resetting the story in a way too, which I think makes sense too. So yeah.
When they're in the classroom, I love your Naoko voice when she's like telling her scary story. You do it so well.
You know what? I absolutely love Nako. Like she's one of my favorites. And I'm also rewatching the original card captors right now too. And I just rewatched the Create episode and I just absolutely love her to death. And I love the fact that Wish Chan also loves her too, that she tries to give Nako more screen time, or I say screen time, but you know what I mean. She gives her character more of a highlight because, she says, Chiharu and Takashi, they have their whole thing. Rika has her thing with Terada Sensei, but poor Nako always tends to get kind of left out. And I love that Wish Chan loves her as a character and tries, especially in Arc 4, which we'll get to eventually.
Yeah,
She
I always get so excited when she pops up. I'm like, Naoko's here.
is so cute. And I just love her. But thank you so much. That's such a sweet compliment.
Your Takashi voice is fun too. Your storytelling cadence for him, really on point.
I do it for you because I know you love them so much. So anytime I read a scene with them, I always try to really put everything into it.
Talk about Malin's truth during the Truth or Dare around the campfire. And I really like the fact that she used the opportunity to basically tell Syaoran to grow up instead of using it as a stage to profess her love, like we've seen. It's like, Syaoran, wait for me, Syaoran, da da da. But and when she said she has a name, it's very telling that even the person who's supposedly like Syaoran is like Syaoran. It's like, no, it's like, come on, grow up. You're being an idiot.
Yeah, I think it'd be a very easy trope for Wish Chan to have been where Maylin is just like, I love you, shout on, you're my number one, choose me. But instead she went with, character growth, character development of, like we talked about before, I think Malin knows deep down she doesn't care for him in that way anymore, and that she loves Sakura as a friend. And so I think it's just like you said, it's just very telling of just, her character growth and development and what she's going to do from here, basically. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting of Wish Chan to kind of go that route and not the route that I think we would just assume Malin would do.
Yeah, it's really easy to just put her in that hole, but luckily Wishan has other plans for our Malin.
And dare I bring up this topic, but I kind of want to. So, Rika and Tarada Sensei, do we want to go there?
Canon is canon is canon, baby. We don't really have much of a choice. Even Wish-chan tried to like skirt around it by like having them break up but then still get back together towards the end or something like that. But yes, it's absolutely disturbing that Clamp is going to do a relationship I guess between a 10-year-old and like a grown man. But interestingly enough, I wrote a series back in the day, 2002, called Before They Remembered, and I paired up Sakura and Syaoran, and I had it was Syaoran's father's funeral, and Sakura was accompanying Fujitaka on an archaeological dig, and then she saw Syaoran during the funeral, so they had like a moment. I did the same thing for Takashi and Chiharu, but like I think that was easy because they were like in daycare together or something like that. I did the same thing for Ariel and Tomoyo. I had Sonomi take her to England for a trip, and then she met little Ariel. And I actually did one for Rika and Terada. And Rika was like 5 years old and Terada was 15 years old. And I actually managed to like, so basically the way that I wrote it, Rika just had a dad complex. Her dad wasn't around. And so when she met Terada, it was like kind of a daddy replacement.
Which, let's all be honest, we know that's what it is. Because again, I'm rewatching Card Captors right now, or Card Captor Sakura, goodness. And in the anime, it's mentioned, "Oh, Rika, your dad's gone a lot, right? He's over in Europe."
Yeah, because it's like that's it. And then like I think what how I wrote it is that like Yokiushi, which is Terada's first name, he was accompanying his mother to Rika's mother. So yeah, his mother was going to a garden party hosted by Rika's mother, and he was like bored, like just in the garden. And then Rika saw him, and he looked like her dad from behind, and she went to hug him. So yeah, so look, I wrote a whole fanfic about it. Do I think it's is it like, today's society approved? Definitely not. But when canon is canon, like look at Nadeshiko. She got married at 16 to like a student professor. It's something that clamps into.
Yes, Clamp definitely likes student-teacher relationships. And I know, to Wish Chan's credit, she tries to, I don't know if fix is the right word that I'm using, but she does try to say, like, I think he's only this old because if he would have graduated school early, in which, I appreciate she tries to fix it in a way to make it a little bit more comfortable. But I'll be honest, it's always has never sat completely right with me, but hey.
Yeah, like let's say she's 10 in canon, like in the CCS, and he's 20. So down the line when she's 30, he's 40, not a big deal. But like Terada, just stay away. Stay away, you're weird.
Yeah. And I mean, my husband and I are 6 years apart, but yeah, I don't know. I was just like, because in she mentions in this chapter that Rika's excited that Terada Sensei is there because he's overseeing a group, and so that made me just be like, do we breach the topic yet, or do we not?
Look, I'm just gonna say that he gives her a ring and then he just keeps his distance until she's old enough.
I like that. I'll be in your head canon this time. You also must have been pretty happy this chapter because there's a lot of super cute scenes with Chiharu and Takashi.
I noticed. They're so adorable, so cute. Like Chiharu has the moment of saying like how much Takashi means to her, and then like Takashi he kisses her on the cheek, even though it's oh yes, in France it's completely normal that people kiss each other on the cheek, blah blah blah. Oh come on. But still, she was blushing, very adorable. I am here for it.
They really are just so cute. I just love them to bits.
Man, Syaoran must have given the teacher a heart attack after the branch cracked when he was up on the tree.
I have always have loved that scene so much. The scene that we'll get to next time, of course, is one of the most epic ones in New Trials. But for some reason, I always remember this scene very vividly in my head of just him reaching for this white blossom with all his might, and he's still, saying to himself that he doesn't care when we all know he really does. I just think it's just a beautifully written part there that I've always have enjoyed that part.
Yeah, and then Wish-chan just breaks our hearts when he throws the flower in the fire.
But and again, I might be reading into it too much, but I think it's symbolic in a way because their love was an innocent flower, and then with him doing what he's going to do in a couple chapters, it's like he's throwing their love into the flames, and so I can kind of see that I'm trying to say. Thank you. But yeah, I can see the teacher being like, you're going to break your neck. We didn't get insurance on this. Your parents are all the way in China.
And then he's like going off on Terada saying it's like, I had to go through certain things, and we have some hints of the Chosen One trial. And it's like, Syaoran, it's like, they don't know that.
He's like Mr. Oversharer in this first arc for sure. So another thing that I wanted to bring up before we get to the end of the campfire scene is this is also the first mention of Aaron not liking sweets, which comes back in arc 4, which I thought was pretty cute. And then one other thing, which I'll put it with Aaron since they're twins, but it's also mentioned in this chapter as well of Arika not liking bugs, which also comes back in arc 4.
Oh, that comes back in such a big way.
Indeed, I'm reading that right now.
I remember when Wish-chan she posted that chapter like segment as a preview. We thought it was like an April Fool's joke. We didn't think it was actual New Trials content.
That sounds familiar. So it's like, what?
Okay, so we're the next day, and I was personally excited to see the training scene because this is something that they actually continue after the camping trip.
Yes. Well, and even when things go down, Sakura, it's you revealed that Sakura even kind of keeps it up on her own time too, but yeah, I was really happy to see this scene.
So let's talk about the broken branch accidents. So when Syaoran was holding Sakura, I think that was the first like S&S moment that we really had in New Trials. I loved his interior monologue, and like throughout the chapters with Shan, she's gonna insist, guys, I'm an S&S fan, I promise. But like moments like these will prove it.
Yeah, oh, that's such a good statement. But yeah, this is 100% our first real feel of an S&S moment. And when he's like, I forget what he says, but he's like, he's holding me so close. Why won't he let go? And it's just, I was like, oh, so sweet.
Any more comments before we move on to the next segment?
Nope, that's all I wanted to mention.
All right, so there's no dark forces in part A, but we did see a little scene where the twins are deciding on which to use next. So for B, we'll have something to come. For fan art, I'd like to highlight Wish-chan's fan arts. It's called Sakura at Camp, and she actually said that was one of her first fan arts. And it's really cute because in the chapter she makes a reference to the camping uniform, and in the fan art we get a visualization of what she had in mind. And since she said it was one of her first fan arts, I'd say that this is probably dated back to 1999, 2000, easy.
The talent, the talent at 13 and being able to draw that. I think that's another thing I've always liked about New Trials is the fact that not only is Wish Chan an amazing writer, but she's also an amazing artist. And the
Yeah.
fact that she can draw what she's picturing in her head for us all is just, it's amazing.
And even when she can't draw all the pictures she wants, she just fills everything with a detail that only an artist could know so that other fans can draw it if they want. And yes, I've used the references many a time to draw certain battle outfits and whatnot.
Yeah, I always love how she is just so amazing at describing the outfits. And I'm one of those readers where when I read, I don't see words in my head, but I see pictures, and it almost plays like a movie when I read things. And so when she's so vivid about how she describes the battle outfits or even just their normal everyday clothes, I just love that because I can picture it so easily in my head.
And another fan art that I'd like to highlight is called The Lesson by Saloni, and it was posted in 2013. And basically, it's a snapshot of Sakura in a fighting stance and Syaoran correcting her. So I'm going to post that up on the Facebook group to share with with everyone.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that one too.
We can move on to author's notes.
Okay. So if you're on her original website following along for whatever reason, the author's note that I'm going to read here is actually not on that. The one I'm going to read today is on fanfiction because on fanfiction, the chapter is broken up into two parts. So she's finally calling herself Wish Chan here, but we got Wish Chan. Okay, so this is yet another strange chapter. There is part 2, which is still to come. I think my chapters are far too long, but I really can't help writing. Arika and Eran are starting to blend into Sakura's friends. Lots of competition ahead. Maylin is as bratty as ever. Didn't mean to make her like that. What's with Truth or Dare? I don't know. Well, the title happens to be Around the Campfire, so they have to do something around the campfire. How do you like Chiharu-chan and Yamazaki-kun's little sweetness? I guess not much happened yet. The next chapter is where the action starts taking place. Well, I don't know what happens in the end of the CCS manga yet. That's sad. But I sort of figured out that Syaoran does admit he likes Sakura. Don't know for sure. But anyway, that complicates things. So that's why I'm trying to make it as if they are starting over again. There I go again, blabbing on. So what's up with the poetry? Is it stupid? It was just a sudden motivation. It's supposed to have some meaning in it if you read carefully. The poem is continued in part 2. And then she shouts out her email. Any suggestions of what Syaoran's father's name might be? That's interesting. And then I have to write about the past, but I don't even know his name. Well, keep your eyes open for part 2. All right.
Yeah, so I was looking at the timeline of the Card Captor Sakura manga, and I think around this time, that's when another manga chapter came out. Not the last one. That one happened in July. But this one, I think it's the second to last chapter. So she has a little bit more information, but we're not at the end yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've talked in previous chapters how she did not know the ending when she first started New Trials. And so this is kind of the first instance of where she's kind of, live chatting in a way of, her thoughts as the manga gets released, which here pretty soon we'll get to see her final reactions to the ending, which I can't wait to read. I also think it's funny that she thinks these chapters are way too long.
Oh, little Wish-chan, if you only know what's in store. I like the way that she tied in around the campfire and Truth or Dare. It's like, okay, I'm going to name something the chapter around the campfire. I got to do something, but it all went really nicely.
And I just think that's a game you play when you're 14 too, especially on a school trip. So it all just makes complete sense that a bunch of 14-year-olds would sit around playing Truth or Dare. I just think that's so cute.
It's pretty adorable. Anything else you'd like to say?
I also think it's kind of interesting that she didn't know what she was going to name Ryurin at this point, which I was going to maybe save it till next chapter, but her and I were chatting on messaging, and I got her to like kind of tell me how she wanted different names pronounced in the audiobook, because I wasn't for sure. And she did kind of tell me that she named him after another anime character, which I'll look up next time when he comes about so I can say his name properly. But yeah, there is a certain character she sort of named him about, and she explained how it's supposed to be pronounced and all that fun stuff. So I'll remember to do that when that happens.
Looking forward to that. I just call him Ryuren in my part, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what is the true pronunciation.
Yeah, I asked her a couple characters' names just because I wasn't for sure, and I wanted to make sure I got it right with the audiobook. And some of them I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense, because some of them I was pronouncing wrong. But she was very much, I don't want you guys to feel, but she was very much like, oh, well, however you want to pronounce it is fine with me. I'm happy with that. But I just wanted to be sure that I was absolutely right when it came to the audiobook.
I don't blame you. Anything else? All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to New Trials, the podcast, where it must rain for there to be a rainbow.
You've been listening to New Trials, the podcast. Please be sure to check out our podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, such as Anchor and Spotify. Also, be sure to check out the original fanfiction written by Wish-chan that you can find on fanfiction.net or her original website, wishluv.com/newtrials. Also, be sure to check out the audiobook, which is narrated by Melanie, which you can also find anywhere you can find this podcast. We also now have a Google account at ntthepod@gmail.com. Please feel free to send us any discussions you would like Preya and I to discuss. Just keep in mind, if it is pertaining to a specific chapter, that you do get it to us in enough time so that we have time to bring it up on the episode. And also be sure to check out the Facebook page so you can keep up to date with discussions. And join us next time when we discuss Chapter 4, Part B, Till the Sunrise.